Alright, we are back with some new decks with the new patch, and the first one is going to be a favorite of mine, as I did this deck as one of my first videos ever when I started this channel, Vladimir and Braum. The link to the original video is below if you want to check it out. Obviously, we have a ton of new cards that have been added and changed for that deck archetype, especially Vladimir, which is exactly why this is the first deck that I wanted to give a shot at, with Vladimir now being buffed level 2, now drains, which is a pretty significant buff. Pretty excited about it. So, if you are new to the channel, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works. As always, with these deck videos, we're going to be going over the deck itself in the deck builder, followed by 2 games that we crush it. God, these games are sick, and I'm just excited. Vladimir is actually playable. So, without further ado, let's get into the deck itself. All right, can I just say, very excited to actually be using Vladimir again, and I think he might actually be decently good. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of new cards that were added that definitely help him out a little bit, and I don't know. We'll see. So, anyways, we got Vladimir and Braum, and the biggest synergies here with Vladimir and Braum is obviously that Braum, when he survives damage, he levels up. Once he gets to level 2, he actually, which, by the way, can I just say, I am very excited for when they bring like a 3rd level to this game. Just saying, I think it's going to happen eventually. Anyways, he summons Mighty Poros, Overwhelm. So that's kind of the strategy that we're going to go with here, is how do we do as much damage as quickly as possible in as few of turns as possible. So this is kind of what's linking Braum with Vladimir. The reason for that is, obviously, Vladimir does damage when he attacks. He does damage to all of his other allies. But you're going to see here we have a lot of other ways to deal damage in this deck, including other overwhelm stuff, just like the Mighty Poros. So we have 2 Kato the Arm in here to also provide us some overwhelm action there. We also have, oh god, where's the other overwhelm? Ruthless Raider. 2 copies of Ruthless Raider, which is also a great transfusion target due to having the toughness on her as well. And then, of course, how can you have any Vladimir deck without Crimson Disciple? This card is freaking amazing. Beyond that, we have the typical deal damage, self-inflicting damage to increase your stats. We got Unscarred Reaver as a 3 of here, which actually, I feel like most people think this is one of the worst self-inflicting cards out there. I highly disagree. You're going to see in game 2 how ridiculous this card is. It kind of just chills, floats around. Nobody cares about it. Doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but this thing does work. So we got the Unscarred Reaver. We also have the Scarthane Stefan. I didn't mess up his name for once. That's good. Only a 2 of in here. We do have a lot of other 3 drops in Ember Maiden and Braum, so we don't want to go crazy there. Legion Veteran is also another great way to get some, easy buffs for attack, as well as Braum, right? So Braum with Legion Veteran on the field is actually pretty strong. Braum is always going to be taking damage as long as he can challenge something, right? So this, with Legion Veteran on the field, just makes a pretty easy +1 attack on Braum, and even just 1 attack on Braum is a huge difference. It's a huge buff and a great advantage. That way it doesn't feel as bad. You have something like Will of Ionia in play right now. Everybody plays it in most Ionia decks. The only other way you get Braum to have attack is with Braum's Take Heart, and it feels really bad to Braum's Take Heart Braum. He has like 5 or 6 damage on him. Now he's buffed up, and they Will of Ionia. Feels bad, right? Doesn't feel as bad if you are able to get attack basically for free with Legion Veteran, and then he gets Will of Ionia. You can just replay him and still possibly even get a buff with Legion Veteran. Plus, can I just say, this is a 4-drop, 4/5. 5 health. Like, seriously, they just nerfed Badger Bear. This thing is nuts with 5 health. It's actually pretty good. So, yeah, this basically is just meant to combo off in 1 or 2 turns with, you kind of got to save your tools in your hand to... It's sometimes hard to navigate, which you're going to see in these 2 games. But you are usually trying to get a turn where you have like an Unscarred with a Crimson Disciple of Vladimir and like one other, person on the field, one other follower. You go in for the attack, and you have, transfusions as well as mites and other tools in your hand to really surprisingly kill your opponent and just burst them down in one turn. You usually don't want to be doing it unless it's in response to something your opponent does. You almost always want to be responding to your opponent's actions and not being proactive and playing your cards up front. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's get into game number 1. All right, first, I just want to start off by saying this is a Vi-Heimer matchup, and Vi-Heimer is a pretty damn good deck. So you can see how this deck is actually pretty competitive in the current meta, or whatever this meta is building up or shaping up to be right now with the new patch coming out. This hand in particular, honestly, is very, very good. 1-drop followed by the Crimson Disciple. Feels amazing. Again, you know, it's 0-3, right? Can't attack with it, can't do any damage this turn. It's one of the reasons why people don't think it's the greatest card in the world, but you're going to see here through this game and the next game why it actually is pretty good. So another mistake that I made there, which I think really I was trying to just kind of high roll and hope that my opponent didn't have the Thermo Beam. You usually only want to be playing Crimson Disciple if you at least, at bare minimum, have an Elixir of Iron in your hand. Getting that early 2 damage and negating, some sort of removal from your opponent is very, very big with the Crimson Disciple. You can see here I actually passed having the extra mana that I could have potentially burned to my opponent, but that got them to play the Solitary Monk, which got a quick 4 damage on my Braum. So another thing with Braum, obviously, if you can level him up super quick, that is great. Just keep in mind, your opponent at all times, every single turn, will be trying to figure out a way to get that Braum off the board. The second Braum levels, he is let's just say a much more dangerous champion than usual. So like, for instance, me attacking here and pulling in this Solitary Monk is kind of risky because I don't have much protection in my hand, right? I really just have this Transfusion, but my opponent has 7 mana. So it should be enough to save him if something were to come down. I can play it in response to a spell. The problem is if they put everything else on the stack with whatever they target Braum with, that Take Heart, I won't be able to get it off because he won't be damaged. He'll just die in 1 stack, right? And that's one of the problems with Take Heart that you have to kind of play around a little bit and take that into consideration. So as we get into what looks to be turn 5 here, now we're starting, okay, we have a Might, we have a Transfusion, we have a Death Lotus, we have a Braum's Take Heart. We have plenty of damage in our hand. The Kato, the arm is going to come down in a second. The reason why I passed again back over to my opponent there with as much mana as I did, like my opponent could have just passed, burned 1 mana, and I would have burned, I think, like 5 or 4 mana at that point. The reason why I passed the way that I did was because I'm worried about Will of Ionia or Thermo Beam on my Kato. The second he plays his 2-drop there, he only has 2 mana left. I know I can play Kato fully safe. Don't have to worry about him killing it. I am A-okay, good to go. Same deal here. I pass back again because I don't want to, just play my Braum's Take Heart and get it negated by something. Now I'm in a situation, though, as you can see, my field is full. All right, this deck plays more followers. I think it's like 24 to 16, right? 24 followers, 16 spells. You are on like most occasions gonna have a pretty big field like this, especially because and your opponent might have a big field too because you're not obviously playing a whole lot of removal, but you don't care because you just want as many procs of all of your things effects, like Crimson Disciple as an example, and as many attacks with anything with Overwhelm, like the Ruthless Raider, like the 1-drop that is actually getting supported by the Kato the Arm right now to have Overwhelm. You just want to punch through as much damage as possible. And if you can save the Braum while doing it, well, more power to you because that Braum is eventually going to pump out Overwhelms. So you can see my opponent right now is actually focused on killing this Braum. So he is first Twin Discipling his Elusive, kill the Braum, then he's Mystic Shotting the Ruthless Raider. Now, I don't actually care about this Ruthless Raider. That is not my goal to get this to live. I'm not worried about it. What I can do is Transfusion the one and only 1-drop that was a 0-3 and is now suddenly a 6-2. And Death Lotus, which honestly, we only have 1 in this deck, but I've considered adding maybe even 2 more, but at least 1 more. Death Lotus is going to push this up to a 9-1. Now he does target it. Now I have the Take Heart. And this is the perfect scenario where you want to be playing a Take Heart. My opponent's mana is exhausted. The Take Heart pushes it up to a 9-5. The Death Lotus adds 3 more attack. His Mystic Shot adds 3 more attack. Everything is just adding so much damage to this one card that used to be just a measly 1 drop 0-3. Now suddenly it's a 15-2 with Overwhelm. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take that over a They Who Endure any day of the week. All right, let's be real. That is a beast of a card, and that is exactly one of the reasons why it is absolutely nuts in this deck. All right, guys, hold up. Before we get into game 2, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. And also, if you like the video, hit that like button. Honestly, I like this video a little bit more than my first Vladimir video. That's actually when I first started YouTube. The quality is not as good, but also the deck is not as good. This deck is amazing. I love this deck. I'm going to try to keep climbing with it right now, actually, because it did a lot better than I thought it would in this video. So, anyways, again, don't forget to subscribe. I'm also going to be casting Duels of Runeterra number, I don't even know, this weekend. There's been a lot of them, but I'll be casting NA with Casanova on Saturday for day 1 and day 2. I'm not sure what's going on for day 2 yet, but I will be casting this weekend. So definitely tune in on Twitch and check it out. And then you have something like, look at first turn here, we draw into an Ember Maiden. Ember Maiden with that card is great as well. It's absolutely bonkers. You know, Ember Maiden procs going into your attack turn. Now it's a 3-2. And if you have Transfusions and Braum's Take Heart in your hand or Take Hearts, that card just becomes so nuts. And I think that's one of the things that people underestimate, I think, is the power of Transfusion. Everybody was playing it in burn aggro, right? PNZ and Noxus. Just to, I don't know, just push through an extra 2 damage, really, is all that it did. Or possibly save like a Boom Crew Rookie or something like that, back when it was a 1-4 rip. But its power to change combat so immensely is nuts in this deck. So even if we weren't playing the self-harm stuff, right? Even if we were not playing the 0-3 girl right here, we would still at burst speed be able to give things +2/+2, which granted till the end of the turn. So you could argue that, you know, Braum's or Take Heart is just kind of on par with Transfusion, but you are getting 3 health as opposed to 2 health. The difference is Transfusion's 1 damage, Take Heart is they have to be damaged. So Take Heart might be a little bit better in that scenario, but with how much stuff gets buffed in this deck by doing damage to something, Transfusion just becomes absolutely insane. Like right now, if I were to Transfusion on the Scarthane Stefan, all right, and then buff, let's say, I don't know, my Braum. Now my Braum becomes a 2/7. It's pretty much not going to kill it this turn. He can also challenge the Twisted Fate that just came down, which is probably, I think, what's going to happen. Pretty nuts that he actually decided the red card there. He was like, he's really desperately trying to clear my field, and that is probably not something that he should have done there. I think he ended up doing it because he wanted to focus on clearing my Braum. So you can see this is what I'm doing is making sure that my Braum is able to clear this Twisted Fate, giving it +2 attack. Now, listen. I hate these freaking pilfer decks. Can we just real quick, like, the only reason this dude was even in this game was because he pilfered an Elixir of Iron. Otherwise, that Twisted Fate would have died this turn, and I would have been in full control of this game because I'm about to throw down a Vladimir, which I think is like already 5 out of 6 leveled up. So that's the only reason he stayed in this game. But anyways, that's off topic. I hate pilfer decks. Vladimir in this deck is usually leveled extremely early. Like, as you can see now, it's almost the turn 5 when he comes down, he's already almost leveled. Now, you're going to take into consideration, too, when Vladimir attacks, he is basically going to trigger his level up as well, depending on how many followers you have in the field, right? So if you always usually want to place him last in the attack order because everything else will take damage. He will end up actually leveling up in that turn. And don't forget too, when somebody, like if this Braum, his effect is going to deal right now 3 damage to our followers, but then the Braum is also going to take damage from the Twisted Fate. So right there, that's 4 procs of his level up. So even if he were at 0 procs for his level up right now, he's going to basically, if he decides to block the Crimson Disciple or this 3/1 right here, well, they'd have to survive. But that's just, it's insane. It's insane how easily he can actually level up. So he's already leveled up here, which puts him out of range of Kato the Arm, which this guy also jacked from my deck. So no thank you there. I think they really got to do something about that pilfer. I think it's kind of busted. I could go on about that for a while. But anyways, this drain does a lot to help this deck kind of survive into the late game. Sometimes, you know, towards the end of the game, you will start to run out of resources because inherently your deck is still just trying to do damage, right? You're not meant to gain card advantage over your opponent, especially my opponent playing the Pilfer deck. Everything about his deck is card advantage, right? So I'm not going to keep up in card advantage. What I will keep up on and way out surpass him on is tempo and damage. And having this Vlad on the field is huge. Right now, I just need to get rid of this Kato the Arm, and he really is not going to have anything that can do anything about my field, right? I mean, if he's playing Riptide Rex at some point, that's not coming out until turn 8. And he also has to plunder that same turn, so he's still got one more turn until he can even play that. And if he does play that, Riptide's also going to proc my Braum as well as my Crimson Disciple. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place as to what he can actually do to get rid of this board. Which is another reason why I decided to open attack as well. I want to be able to get the attack down before he decides to warning shot and Riptide. And you're going to see here too, with my opponent only at 8, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We have the keys to the city in our hand. We have the Blade Lotus. We have the Might. Might is a huge damage dealer in this deck. +3 attack and overwhelm is usually going to be enough to kill your opponent, and that's exactly what ends up happening here. He exhausts all his mana. I don't even think I need to play the Lotus. I can just play the Might here, and it does enough damage to kill him, but single swing turns like this where you can do 10 damage are exactly what this deck is looking for. All right, that is it. That's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Love this deck. Love this game. Oh my God, it's so much fun. I really hope you guys enjoy this game as much as I do playing it on a weekly basis. I just love all the cards, all the changes that Riot constantly makes. This patch was freaking amazing. So as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.